How many times have you lit a candle with a distracted heart? How many times have you uttered empty words, believing that God listens to the mechanical repetition? How many times have you asked for peace in your home while your soul is at war with itself? Listen carefully, because what I'm going to reveal to you today can change not only the way you pray, but the spiritual destiny of your entire family. There is a very serious mistake that millions make every day when they light a candle. A mistake so subtle it seems innocent, yet it closes the gates of heaven and leaves your home exposed to darkness. And I'm not telling you this to frighten you. I'm telling you this because I love you, and because I've seen from the other side of the veil how souls are lost through ignorance, spiritual laziness, and the belief that faith is merely a ritual. When you hold that candle in your hands, when you bring the flame close and murmur your intentions, God isn't listening to your words. He's looking into your heart. And if your heart is full of resentment, pride, or attachment to material things, that candle isn't prayer, it's theater, a lie dressed as devotion. And I warn you, with all the strength that the love of Christ gives me, God is not deceived. I remember a woman I knew, a good woman according to everyone. She went to Mass every Sunday, lit candles for her children, for her husband, for the health of her sick mother. But at home, that same woman sowed poison with her tongue, criticized her neighbor, judged her sister-in-law, demanded perfection from her children, while she herself lived in spiritual mediocrity. One day, her youngest daughter became seriously ill. She rushed to the church, lit 10 candles, wept before the altar, and the child didn't recover. Do you know why? Because God doesn't need your candles. He needs your conversion. If you who are listening now recognize even a glimmer of yourself in this story, I implore you, like this video and subscribe right now, Beck. Or what follows is an emergency call for your soul. Don't go on without pressing that button, because your decision to do so is your first act of humility today. Your first acknowledgement that you need help, that you need to change. The peace you seek for your home cannot be bought with wax or empty promises. Peace is the fruit of holiness, and holiness hurts. It hurts because it demands that you die to yourself every day. It hurts because it forces you to forgive when your pride screams for revenge. It hurts because it demands silence when you want to shout, gentleness when you want to assert yourself, generosity when you want to accumulate. Listen to this carefully, because it is the root of everything. When you light a candle, you are not performing magic. You are not activating an automatic power. You are opening a channel of communication with the divine. But that channel only works if you yourself are a clean channel. If your life is a moral mess, if your tongue is a weapon, if your heart is a cave of resentment, that candle can do nothing for you. It's like trying to fill a container full of garbage with clean water. And here comes the part that hurts me the most to tell you, but that you most need to hear. Many of you are using candles as if they were amulets, as if simply lighting them gives you the right to demand things from God. I lit my candle. Now you have to give me what I ask for. That's not faith. It's superstition. And superstition is an open door for the enemy. Let me tell you what it truly means to light a candle, to bring God's peace into your home. It means you are willing to be an instrument of that peace. It means you will stop being a source of conflict. It means you will keep quiet when your family offends you, that you will forgive before they ask for forgiveness, that you will serve when you feel tired, that you will pray when you would rather sleep. The peace of God is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of Christ in the midst of chaos. And Christ only dwells where he is welcome, where there is room for him, where the ego has shrunk. Your room may be filled with sacred images, rosaries, and lit candles, but if your heart is full of yourself, Christ is outside knocking at the door, waiting for you to let him in. Now, there are specific words you must say when you light that candle. But before I reveal them to you, I need you to understand something crucial. These aren't magic formulas. They're the expressions of a heart that has examined itself, repented, and emptied itself. If you utter these words without having gone through that process, you're merely stirring up air. God doesn't hear sounds. He hears intentions. God doesn't read lips. He reads souls. When you stand before that candle, before lighting it, conduct a brutal examination of conscience. Ask yourself, have I forgiven everyone? Have I asked for forgiveness from everyone? Is there someone in my family I'm hurting with my attitude? Is there a hidden sin I'm protecting? I'm asking for peace, but sowing war with my words, with my silences full of reproach, with my judgmental glances. If the answer to any of these questions is yes, stop. Don't light that candle yet. First, go and reconcile. First, mend what's broken in your heart. First, cleanse your conscience. And only then, when you've done your part, when you've been honest with yourself and with God, then yes, light that candle and speak. But speak from the truth, not from the fantasy of what you want to appear to be. Now that you understand the preparation of the heart, let me reveal something that few grasp. The words you speak when lighting that candle must come from a soul that has already begun its transformation. You cannot ask for what you are not prepared to embody. You cannot plead for peace if you are the one throwing stones every morning in your own home. I have seen so many cases that break my heart. A while ago, in a family I knew, the father would light a candle every night, praying for unity in his home. But that same man would come home from work and not greet his wife. He ignored his children. He would lock himself in with his phone while dinner grew cold on the table. His candle burned brightly on the altar, but his heart was frozen in selfishness. Years passed and his children grew distant, cold, and bitter. He didn't understand why God hadn't heard his prayers, but God had. What the man hadn't done was listen to himself. He hadn't seen the brutal contradiction between his words and his life. So when you take that candle, when you feel its weight in your hands, the first thing you must say is this: Lord, may this flame be a symbol of my desire to burn for you, not for my own whims. Repeat this in your mind until you feel it deep within you. Because this phrase is a commitment, a declaration of war against your own comfort, against your tendency to want God to serve you instead of you serving God. Then as you draw the fire closer, say with all your heart that the light of Christ will drive away all the darkness that I myself have invited in. This is crucial. Listen carefully. Most of the problems in your home don't come from outside. They come from within. They come from your decisions, your omissions, the doors you have opened to evil through your spiritual negligence. That television you leave on showing garbage while your children absorb poison. Those gossipy conversations you allow at your dinner table. That laziness that makes you postpone family prayer day after day until no one in your house prays anymore. And if what I'm saying is making you uncomfortable, if you feel these words are too harsh, then you're exactly where you need to be. The truth hurts because it cuts, because it tears, because it exposes. And I didn't come here to stroke your ego. I came to save your soul. So I ask you now, while you feel that discomfort, to turn it into action. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Turn on notifications, because each one will be a reminder that you have work to do, that your transformation can't wait another day. After lighting the candle, contemplate that flame. Don't rush. We live in a generation of impatient people who can't even spend 5 minutes in silence with God. Look how that flame dances, how it consumes the wax, how it surrenders completely to its purpose without complaint, without resistance. That candle doesn't say, I've given enough light for today. It burns down to the very end. Are you willing to give yourself completely for love of your family? Or are you still calculating how much love to give, how much to forgive, how much to serve? As you contemplate this, say this: Virgin Mary, Mother of Peace, teach me to be meek of heart like your Son. This prayer is medicine for the proud soul. Because pride is the cancer that destroys the most homes. Pride that refuses to apologize. Pride that always needs to be right. Pride that prefers hostile silence to the humiliate. Ion, of admitting a mistake. And let me tell you something that will hurt. If there's war in your home, you're most likely part of the problem, not just the victim. I met a woman who came to confession with me, devastated because her marriage was falling apart. She wept, saying her husband was a harsh, indifferent, impossible man. I asked her, "And you, my dear, how do you treat him?" She remained silent. Then between sobs, she admitted that for years she had criticized his every mistake, comparing him to other men, making him feel he was never enough. She had extinguished his flame with constant criticism, and now she was crying because the house was cold. I told her, "Go and light a candle, but first ignite love in your heart. Ask your husband for forgiveness. Rebuild what you helped destroy." God's peace is not a product that can be bought with devotions. It is a fruit that grows in fertile soil, and that soil is you. If your soul is dry, bitter, and filled with resentment, nothing ceases and grow there. That's why when you light your candle, you should also pray like this: "Lord, cultivate my heart. Remove every root of bitterness. Prepare me to be fertile ground where your peace can take deep root." Now, let me tell you about something many forget. Peace has concrete enemies in your daily life. And if you don't identify and fight them, no amount of candles will be enough. One of those enemies is the uncontrolled tongue. James says it clearly: "The tongue is fire, a world of evil." In your kitchen, while you're preparing food, what comes out of your mouth? Blessings or curses? Words that build up or words that tear down? I've seen homes destroyed not by great tragedies, but by small, poisonous words repeated day after day. "You're useless. You never do anything right. You're just like your mother. I regret ever meeting you." Each of those phrases is an open door to hell in your house, and then you go and light a candle asking for peace. Do you see the madness? It's like poison. Eating the food and then expecting everyone to be healthy. Therefore, when you light your candle, add this plea: "Lord, place a guard over my lips. May only words of life, words that heal, words that unite, come out. And may it not be just a pretty prayer, but a commitment you examine each night before you sleep." Another enemy of peace is unforgiveness. That grudge you secretly harbor, that offense you replay in your mind over and over, that family member you no longer speak to because of something that happened years ago. Every grudge is a barrier between your prayer and heaven. Jesus was crystal clear. If you don't forgive, you won't be forgiven. There are no exceptions. It doesn't matter what they did to you. It doesn't matter how much they hurt you. The commandment is the same: forgive or die spiritually. And here I need you to be brutally honest with yourself. Write in the comments without mentioning names. Just say, "I need to forgive." Don't say who, just acknowledge that you have his task to complete. That simple act of writing it down will be the first step toward your liberation. And if you don't have the courage to write it publicly, at least write it on a piece of paper and burn it in the candle you're about to light. Let the fire consume not only the paper, but also your resentment. The peace God wants to give you is not a superficial peace. It's not just the absence of shouting in your home. It's a deep peace that withstands storms, survives crisis, and remains even when everything falls apart. But only those who have learned to die to themselves possess that peace. And dying to oneself means giving up being right, giving up your right to revenge, giving up your need for control, giving up your demand that everyone understand and value you. When that candle is burning brightly before you, speak these final words: "Jesus, you who are the Prince of Peace, reign in my home, beginning by reigning in me. May my life reflect your gentleness. May my hands be instruments of your service. May my home be a foretaste of heaven." And then remain there in silence, letting those words penetrate to the very depths of your being. There is something I must tell you now. Something many pastors and preachers avoid mentioning because it is uncomfortable, because it is not popular, because it does not generate applause. The peace of God has a price, And that price is your complete surrender of the life you are living now. You can't have God in the world. You can't serve two masters. And when you light that candle asking for peace, you're signing a contract with heaven that demands your complete transformation. Let me tell you what I saw in a hospital many years ago. There was a dying man surrounded by his family. All his life, he had been a respectable man in the eyes of the world, hardworking, a provider, responsible. But on his deathbed, his children didn't weep out of love. They wept out of obligation. His wife held his hand, but her eyes were empty. He had given everything except the one thing that mattered: his true presence, his heart, his time. He had built a large house, but an empty home. And now at the end, he realized that all his life, he had pursued a false peace, the peace of material success, while his family bled in spiritual loneliness. Don't make that mistake. Don't wait until your deathbed to discover that what you thought was important was worthless, and what you neglected was eternal. When you light that candle, when you cry out for God's peace in your home, you are saying, Lord, I am ready for you to destroy my idols, to tear down my false gods, to expose my hypocrisies, because God does not share his throne with anyone. He is either the Lord of your house or he is not. There is no middle ground. And now listen to me very carefully, because I'm going to reveal to you the 3 pillars upon which true peace in a home is built. These 3 pillars are ones that no one has taught you, because they require sacrifice, discipline, and the death of self. The first is family prayer. Not the individual prayer you do sporadically when you remember, but prayer together as a body, as one. Jesus promised this: where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there am I. But in your home, when was the last time you knelt together? When was the last time you put down your phones, turned off the television, and opened your hearts before God as a family? I'm going to tell you something that will shake you. If there is no daily family prayer in your home has no spiritual foundation. No matter how many candles you light in church, no matter how many pictures you have on the wall, if you don't pray together, you're building on sand. And when the storms come, and believe me, they will, your house will crumble. I've seen families torn apart by crises that other families overcame with ease. What was the difference? Those who survived had an unwavering habit of praying together. Those who fell apart did not. So if these woes are piercing your heart like a 2-edged sword, if you are feeling the conviction that you have been negligent, I ask you to leave your comment right now saying, I am going to start family prayer today, not tomorrow, not next Monday, today. And share this video with someone in your family who needs to hear this, because your public commitment is an act of faith. It's a declaration of war against the spiritual mediocrity that has been ruling your home. The second pillar is loving correction. And this is so important that if you don't understand it well, you can destroy your family while believing you're saving them. Listen, correcting isn't scolding, it isn't humiliating, it isn't taking out your frustration on others. Correcting is an act of love that seeks the good of the other person, not your emotional gratification. I've seen parents destroy their children with constant criticism, believing they're shaping them. I've seen wives who constantly criticize their husbands, believing they're improving them. That's not correction. It's cruelty disguised as virtue. True correction comes from a heart that has first corrected itself. Jesus said it clearly. First, remove the plank from your own eye before you try to remove the speck from your brother's eye. When you see a flaw in your spouse, your child, or any member of your family, before you open your mouth, ask yourself, am I free from this flaw? My motivation is to help them or to vent my anger. Will I correct them gently or harshly? Because if you correct from a place of hurt, you won't heal and you won't truly be whole. I remember a mother who came to see me desperate because her teenage daughter had drifted away from the faith. She dressed provocatively, hung out with dangerous friends. Her mother cried, begging for advice on how to straighten out her daughter. I asked her, how do you correct her? She told me, I yell at her, I take away her things, I tell her she's shameless, that she embarrasses me. Sister, you're not correcting her, you're pushing her further. Every word you say is another nail in her heart. Your daughter doesn't need your yelling, she needs your love. She needs you to kneel with her, to cry with her, to show her the way by walking it yourself. The third pillar, and perhaps the most painful to implement, is silent sacrifice. This means that there are things you must endure without complaining, crosses you must bear without seeking recognition, and pains you must offer without seeking pity. In every family, there are difficult members, unfair situations, and unequal burdens. And the world will tell you, stand up for your rights. Don't let yourself be taken advantage of. Demand reciprocity. But Christ tells you something radically different. Take up your cross and follow me. That relative who hurts with their words. That rebellious child who breaks your heart. That distant spouse who makes you feel invisible. That chronic illness that tests your patience. That financial situation that distresses you daily. All of it. Absolutely everything can become your stairway to heaven if you offer it up with love instead of resisting it with bitterness. But the key lies in silence. Not the cowardly silence that represses, but the sacred silence that offers. Let me give you a concrete example of what this looks like in real life. A woman whose husband cheated on her with another woman. The world would tell her, leave him, publicly humiliate him, destroy him. But she, heartbroken, chose the path of Christ. She didn't pretend it didn't hurt. She didn't pretend everything was fine. But she also didn't seek revenge. She prayed in secret, wept in private, and offered that immense pain as a sacrifice for her husband's conversion. Years passed. He returned transformed, genuinely repentant. And today, they have a marriage stronger than ever. Why? Because she understood that God's peace is won through sacrifice, not revenge. And I know some of you are thin, King, but Saint Teresa, that's too much. That's unfair. I can't. You're right. You can't do it alone. But with Christ, all things are possible. And this is where we return to that candle you light. When you pray before it, ask for the grace to endure the unbearable, to forgive the unforgivable, to love what seems utterly unlovable. Because that grace exists. I experienced it. Millions of saints experienced it. And you too can experience it if you stop relying on your own strength and start relying on God's. Now I need to warn you about something crucial. The enemy is going to fiercely attack your decision to seek God's peace in your home. Don't think that just because you light a candle and say these prayers, everything will be perfect. On the contrary, things may get worse before they get better. It's like cleaning an infected wound. It hurts more at first, but it's necessary for healing. He will use the same people in your family to discourage you, to make you doubt, to tempt you to give up. Perhaps your husband will mock your newfound devotion. Perhaps your children will refuse to join in family prayer. Perhaps your own parents will tell you that you're exaggerating, that you're becoming a fanatic. Don't stop. Don't back down. The peace of God is not for cowards. It's for spiritual warriors who are willing to fight to the end. Even if they are alone. Even if no one understands them. Even if everyone abandons them. If you've read this far, it's because God has a specific plan for you and your family. It's not by chance. Like this post right now, as an act of faith, as a declaration of your commitment to this transformation. And subscribe if you haven't already, because you need these constant reminders. You need this voice to shake you up when you want to give up, when the temptation to return to your comfortable but empty life is strong. Let's delve deeper now to that painful part that touches on truths you'd rather ignore. When you light that candle and say those words I've taught you, you're invoking God's presence in your home. But do you know what that truly means? It means that everything that isn't of God will be exposed, uprooted, and purified. And that process is painful because it involves seeing your own misery, acknowledging your own failings, accepting that you've been part of the problem for years without realizing it. I've known homes where the rosary is prayed every night, where the walls are covered with religious images, where holy water is never lacking. But in those same homes, there are children who don't speak to each other. There are married couples who sleep in the same bed but live like strangers. There's a spiritual coldness that freezes everything. Why? Because they confused religiosity with holiness, because they believed that fulfilling rituals was enough, while their hearts remained selfish, hardened, and closed to true love. The peace of God cannot coexist with hypocrisy. It cannot. It's impossible. So when you ask for that peace, prepare yourself for God to begin to lay bare your soul, to show you all those areas where you have been lying, where you have been pretending, where you have been playing at being holy while living in sin. And I'm not just referring to big, scandalous sins. I'm referring to those everyday sins that you normalize, justify, and no longer even recognize as sins. That gossip you share at the family dinner table disguised as concern. That criticism of your brother expressed as sincerity. That merciless judgment of those who have fallen into sin while you feel superior because your sins are more discreet. That greed you call financial prudence. That pride you disguise as defending your rights. That spiritual laziness you justify with "I'm tired." All of that must die if you want God's peace to be born in your home. And here's something I need you to understand with absolute clarity. God's peace is contagious, but so is the lack of it. If you are a source of conflict, negativity, and constant complaining, you will contaminate your entire family. I have seen how a single bitter person can poison a whole house. Like a drop of ink darkens a glass of clear water, a heart full of resentment darkens an entire home. There was a family I knew, a large family where everyone seemed happy except for the grandmother. That woman had suffered greatly in her life. She had been widowed young, had raised her children alone with enormous sacrifices. But instead of that suffering drawing her closer to God, it had made her bitter. She complained about everything, criticized everyone, saw evil everywhere, and little by little, her children adopted her same attitude. Her grandchildren grew up thinking that life was only suffering and injustice. That woman didn't pass on material wealth. She passed on a curse of bitterness that has been passed down from generation to generation. Don't be that person. Don't be the one who curses your descendants with your defaced attitude, your lack of faith, your constant negativity. Because when you light that candle asking for peace, you're not just asking for today, you're asking for future generations. You are deciding what kind of spiritual legacy you will leave. And let me tell you something that perhaps no one has ever told you. Your grandchildren will pay the price for your spiritual decisions today. If you decide today to be a man or woman of prayer, if you decide today to break free from spiritual mediocrity, if you decide today to be an instrument of peace, you will be blessing generations yet unborn. But if you choose to remain lukewarm, comfortable, and spiritually mediocre, you will be cursing those same generations. The responsibility is enormous, and that's why you can't take this lightly. Now, I want to talk to you about something specific that must happen in your home for God's peace to be established. Restoration. This word is hardly used anymore. Almost no one teaches it, but it is fundamental. To make restitute. Shion means to repair the damage you've caused. It's not enough to ask God for forgiveness in your private prayer. You have to go and concretely repair what you've broken. If you stole, return it. If you slandered, set the record straight. If you hurt with words, ask for forgiveness on your knees if necessary. God's peace cannot be built on injustice without making amends. I'm going to tell you something that breaks my heart. A father in a fit of rage beat his teenage son. Afterward, he deeply regretted it, prayed, lit candles, and went to confession. But he never went directly to his son to ask for forgiveness. He never publicly acknowledged his mistake. He never healed that wound. Years later, that son became a violent father. You see the pattern? Unrepented sin is passed on, multiplies, and perpetuates itself. Restitution would have broken that chain, but the father's pride was stronger than his repentance. So after lighting your candle, after saying your prayers, ask yourself, to what do I owe an apology? What harm have I caused that I must repair? What truth have I hidden that I must confess? And then act. Don't postpone. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Go today, right now if possible, and repair. Humble yourself if necessary. Cry if you need to cry, but restore what you've broken. And if as you read this, your heart is pounding because you know exactly what I'm talking about. If a name, a face, a specific situation comes to mind, then do me a favor. Write in the comments, "I will make amends." Don't give details. That statement alone will be your public commitment, the first step in your restoration. And like this video, so more people can receive this message that can save entire families. Now, there's another aspect of peace we need to address. Peace in the midst of inevitable suffering. Because not all sadness is a lack of peace. Not all pain means God is absent. Some suffering is purification, growth, and transformation. And God's peace doesn't eliminate the suffering. It gives you the grace to go through it without breaking, without losing faith, without becoming bitter. Think of a woman who has just lost her mother. The pain is real, the tears are legitimate, the grief is necessary, but God's peace allows you to weep without despairing, allows you to suffer without rebelling against God, allows you to be sad without losing hope. That is the peace that surpasses all understanding, the peace that the world cannot give or take away. And that peace is only found by those who have learned to embrace the cross, not to run from it. Your home will experience crises. There will be illnesses. There will be financial losses. There will be conflicts. There will be times when everything seems to be collapsing. The question is not whether these storms will come, but how you will respond when they arrive. Will you curse God? Will you blame others? Will you sink into despair? Or will you stand firm in faith? Will you trust when you don't understand? Will you praise even in the midst of pain? I have seen families lose everything materially and emerge more united spiritually. I've seen marriages through the death of a child and their love deepen instead of breaking. I've seen homes face terminal illness and become living testimonies of God's grace. What did all these families have in common? One thing, they had built their homes on the rock of prayer, sacrifice, and total surrender to God before the storm hit. That's why I urge you so much not to wait for a crisis to seek God. Don't be like those who only pray when they have problems and then forget about God when everything is going well. Build your relationship with God now in times of peace, so that when the war comes, you will be prepared. Light your candle today. Establish your family prayer today. Repair your relationships today, because tomorrow may be too late. And let me tell you something else. God's peace is also manifested in your ability to forgive yourself. How many people live tormented by past mistakes, by sins already confessed but not forgiven inwardly, by wrong decisions they keep replaying in their minds day after day? That's not humility, that's pride. It is believing that your sin is greater than God's mercy. It is not accepting the forgiveness God has already given you. When you are before that lit candle, if you carry past guilt that you have already confessed, say this with all your soul. Lord, I accept your forgiveness. I forgive myself in your name. I break every chain of guilt that the enemy uses to torment me and believe it. Live free because God doesn't remind you of your confessed sins. Why do you keep dwelling on them? God has already turned the page. Why do you insist on remaining trapped in the chapter of your mistakes? Now I'm going to reveal something that will completely change your understanding of candlelight prayer. I acknowledge that my home urgently needs your presence. Today I choose to change. Today I choose to be different. Today I surrender to you my pride, my fears, my sins, my entire life. Transform my heart so that I may transform my home. May the flame of this candle be a symbol of my commitment to burn for you until the last day of my life. Amen. If you repeated this prayer sincerely, something has just changed in the spiritual realm. The angels are celebrating, Heaven is watching, and I, from where I am interceding for you, so that God may grant you all the graces necessary to fulfill this commitment you have just made. Don't forget to share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. Perhaps that arranged family member, that friend you know is suffering, that person who comes to mind right now. Be an instrument so that this message reaches more hearts. And stay connected to this channel, because I will continue to bring messages that will shake your soul and keep you on the right path. God's peace is already available for your home. The question was never whether God wants to give it to you. The question was always whether you are willing to pay the price to receive it. And now that you know that price, now that you know what it requires, the decision is in your hands. Choose wisely, choose today, choose life. May God bless. And keep your home under His mantle of eternal peace.